The food pyramid wasn't science, it was a negotiation. And the people on the other side of the table weren't nutritionists, they were lobbyists. Let's start with the agency that made it, because the whole story lives there. The USDA was created in 1862 with two jobs. One, keep American agriculture profitable. Sell the beef, sell the milk, sell the grain, keep farmers in business. And two, tell Americans what to eat to stay healthy. For a long time, those jobs didn't fight because the advice was always to eat more. More is good for farmers and fine for people. But the second the science started saying eat less of something, those two jobs went to war inside the same building. And the agency whose paychecks depend on selling food got to write the guide telling you how much of it to eat. This is the part people miss. The conflict wasn't a scandal that happened to the USDA. The conflict was the USDA, built in. In 1992 wasn't the first time it showed. Back up to 1977, a Senate committee led by George McGovern put out something called Dietary Goals for the United States. One of the lines said plainly, eat less meat. The cattle industry and the meat packers came down hard, along with members of Congress from cattle states. Within months, the committee caved and reissued it. Eat less meat became eat lean meat. One tells you to cut back, the other tells you to keep buying, just pick a different cut. McGovern lost his Senate seat in 1980, and the fight over that report was part of the reason why. The message to everyone watching was simple. Tell people to eat less of a product, and the industry will end your career. So that's the room the food pyramid was built in. In the early 80s, the USDA brought in a nutrition expert named Louise Light. She had a doctorate, she taught at NYU, and she led the team assigned to design the new guide, and they did the work. They reviewed the actual research. And the pyramid they built looked nothing like the one you know. Their base, the foundation, the eat the most layer was fruits and vegetables. 5 to 9 servings a day. Grains were a smaller piece, 3 to 4 servings. And specifically whole grains. And here's the detail that tells you they knew exactly what they were doing. Baked goods made with white flour, the crackers and sweets and low nutrient stuff packed with sugar and fat, they put at the very top of the pyramid, the tip, the eat sparingly corner, where it belonged. Then Light's design went up the chain to the office of the Secretary of Agriculture. And when it came back, she said she didn't recognize it. The fruits and vegetables at the base, 5 to 9 servings, got cut to 2 or 3. The whole grains, 3 and 4 servings, got inflated to 6 to 11 and moved to the foundation of the entire pyramid. Tripled. And the word whole quietly disappeared. So now it was just grains, bread, cereal, pasta, refined or not. And that white flour junk that her team had deliberately placed at the very top with eat sparingly, in the revised version, it got dropped down into the base with everything else. So the layer the scientists said to eat the least of became the layer Americans were told to eat the most of. That's not a rounding error, that's a reversal. And it lined up perfectly with what the wheat and corn and processed food industries needed to move product. The fruit and vegetable number, by the way, only got fixed years later, and not by the USDA. The National Cancer Institute, a different agency, ran an anti-cancer campaign and forced the servings back up. The nutrition guide had to be corrected by people who weren't selling food. Now fast forward to 91. The finished pyramid, the eating right pyramid, is at the printer, ready to go. And the National Cattlemen's Association sees the layout, and it doesn't like that beef is sitting up near the fats in the eat less zone. The National Milk Producers Federation isn't happy either. They push, and the USDA pulls a finished printed guide off the presses. The Secretary of Agriculture at the time, Edward Madigan, was a known protector of farm interests. The pyramid then spent another full year in revision. The graphics got redrawn to keep the industries happy. That do-over cost taxpayers somewhere around $900,000. And the final version came out in 92. Bread and pasta as the foundation of the American diet. All fats crowded up at the top and labeled use sparingly. All of them, including olive oil, including the fat in an avocado. Think about what that taught a country. Carbs are the base, fat is the enemy. So the food companies gave us exactly that, low-fat everything. And when you pull the fat out of food, it tastes like cardboard. So they replaced it with sugar. Low-fat yogurt, sugar. Low-fat cereal, sugar. SnackWells, a whole aisle of it sold as the healthy choice, blessed by the shape on the chart. Doctors now argue that the low-fat era is part of how obesity and type 2 diabetes climbed the way they did over the next 30 years. Now, that last part's still debated. You can't pin a national health crisis on one diagram, but the diagram was on the wall of every classroom in the country. A generation grew up believing it was settled science. It was a marketing compromise with a government seal on it. The pyramid hung there until 2011 when the USDA quietly retired it and put out My Plate instead. A plate, not a pyramid, less controversial shape, same agency, same two jobs that don't get along. And this year, 2026, they finally flipped it. The new version turns the pyramid upside down. The grains that were the foundation for almost 20 years got shrunk down to the tip. Whole foods and protein moved to the wide part, roughly where Louise Light and her team had them in the first place. It took about 30 years and a national health crisis for the government to print what its own scientists handed it on day one. The food pyramid was never a picture of what's good for you. It was a picture of who had lobbyists in the room. And the next time a system hands you a simple chart and tells you it's just science, ask who got to edit it before it reached you. I'm Lil, and this is Lil Unfiltered.